The First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I have some thoughts about this trilogy that I've just been dying to get off my chest. So I just decided, record, let's just start talking, unscripted. So, first things first, the expectations I had going into this trilogy. All right? You know, I love Booktube. All the time I'm looking at tier lists, fantasy recommendations, and all the time, this is what I heard. From the Daniel Greens, from the Mike's book reviews, all of them, that you take the famous Game of Thrones, and then you have something which is even better than Game of Thrones. That's a hot ass take. I mean, Game of Thrones is awesome. Like, those last two seasons suck. I never read the book, so I had an option. I was like, okay, read the Game of Thrones book, retread a story that I already know a lot about and discover new things, or read something new, completely new. That's even better, and like a name like that, Joe Abercrombie, what people call Lord Grimdark. It's like, I don't even know if that's his real name. Like, it's like he was born to write Grimdark Fantasy. So I went into this with high expectations, right? And you look at some of these titles, like The Blade Itself, Before They're Hanged, The Last Argument of Kings, especially that title, The Last Argument of Kings. It just called to me, right? But sadly, this wasn't everything I expected. This is a great series, but man, do I have some issues. So you know what? I'm just gonna get started. First, I'm gonna just go spoiler free. No spoilers for this part. So let's start off with the good. The characters in First Law, phenomenal, right? You take this classic trope we see in media nowadays of these like morally gray characters, these people they're not really good people, so the author has to win you over through their wit, their charm, their something about them, right? So we got three main guys: Logan Nine Fingers, Glocta, and Giselle. And then we have this woman, Farah, called Farah. These guys are amazing. Like this journey I've been on from the Blade itself. Immediately I understood the hype about Glocta. This guy, it's like, imagine the Jaime Lannister trope where you have this person who extreme fame, had everything going for him, famous throughout the land, and then something happened where he just completely lost all the reputation. Like, so how Jaime went from, he just became known as nothing but the Kingslayer, a traitor. Glocta, whew, much worse. He went from the Jaime Lannister of the world to a piece of crap torturer, right? And yeah, I've never read a series where like one of the main perspectives is of a torturer. Like, that's not something that's normal, but this series pulls it off magnificently. Glocta, like, you hear his inner monologue of all like because he's crippled. What happened to him is he was a war hero, and then he got captured, completely crippled, and he came back, and he just decided the trauma from what happened to him led him to do the same thing to others. And we really get into the psyche of that, and how one part of him really wishes like for that old glory. He's like, wow, like this is who I was. I was Glocta. I was Sandan Glocta the Great. And now I'm an inquisitor. Like, people look at me and want to scream inside. Just look at me in filth, right? And that's just one example. We have also Logan Nine Fingers, the Northman, right? The Bloody Nine, as they call him, right? This guy, like, everyone hates him throughout the North. Everybody hates him. And you would think he's just some wild, like, barbarian that just wants blood and to kill, and he's good for nothing else. But he's actually the wisest guy in the series, by far. one of the mantras, like something he always says throughout that has stuck with me, is he says, "It's better to do it than to live with the fear of it." And there's so many lines like that. And then he has another one where he's like, "You got to be realistic." And then another one where they're in battle, he's like, "You can never have too many knives." And then it's cool, like throughout the series, you see how these other characters, like Jazal, Pharaoh, they think they think about what Logan has said, and it sticks with them. Like at the time, they're just like, "Oh, like stupid Northman," but then they're in a scenario where like, "Wow, like I get it," right? So yeah, the characters are great. As a approaching this series as a character study is fascinating. You see how some of these characters change, but then like in most fantasy series, when someone changes and develops, it's permanent, right? But that's not real life. In real life, it's messy. It's not one track. No, no, no. It's like you change and then you go back to your old ways and then you change and then like it's a like gradual steps of like, learning and adapting. And this series is great at that. Now, I'm talking all this praise. So why is it that the series frustrates me so much? It's because this is nothing like Game of Thrones at all. Like this this series really illuminated what I like in my stories and my fiction. Like I like the grimdark stuff, but I also am a very romantic person. Like I love the romanticization, the ideal, like something to live up to. Realism's great too, but I love that perfect balance. And everything in this series, it's like it's an epic fantasy that's anti-epic every step along the way. So in Game of Thrones, even though things are grimdark, like you have these people that are just larger than life. You have the Ned Starks, the Robs, the Tywin Lannisters, the Daenerys Targaryens, like epic figures, right? And then you're playing these like 40 chess games of war against one another. It's awesome. And then the Iron Throne, it's just something that's you can feel it like wow, like I really care who's gonna get in the throne because it matters. Nothing matters in this. First law, nothing matters. It's it's nihilistic in a way that it gets boring after a while. Like the first book, the second book, it's fine, right? But I guess I started this series in November, and as I've been reading it, like I'm tired of it. By book three is probably the best book, but I'm tired of it. Like I'll give you some examples. The leadership, it's a joke. It's like this series. It's a reflection. I think that it takes a lot of inspiration of our American government, of bureaucracy, and what happens when bureaucracy has just been around for decades and hundreds of years, and how the leadership just does not really matter. The system works for itself. Like it doesn't matter. The people at the top are just figureheads, and it has this whole thing of like no one really knows what they're doing. Everyone is just faking it till they make it. Everyone feels like a fraud inside. Like everyone has imposter syndrome. And it's fascinating at first, but like by book three, like I get it. I get it. Like I don't I don't see the need to explore this thread any longer. Like I don't feel inspired. The some of the things I love from a fantasy like this is like so there's war in the series. There's war, there's politics, there's adventure, but none of it matters. The war, everything's a fucking joke. Like everything's a joke. The political intrigue, it's all silly. Everyone's like, yeah, like all of this is stupid. It's ridiculous. Things could be solved so easily if people weren't so hard set in their ways. And it sucks. Like I'm not into that. I'm not into. Pause. Let's see. So yeah, it's got this thing where like everyone, it starts off where all the characters they have these great reputations, but they just feel like regular people, and that's awesome. Like I love that in modern fantasy. It's taken too far. It's that plus nihilism, and it's in everyone. Like I like seeing it in the Northmen, right? There's these group of Northmen that Logan's with, and how they explore it's great. Like when someone dies, they're just like back to the mud, back to the mud. Yeah, oh, and that's really cool at first, but then after a while, I'm like, okay, like we're just retreading the same themes. It's getting boring. So the last argument of kings. I'll be honest, I haven't finished the series yet. We got about 200 pages left, right? And I'll be honest, I wanted to drop this or take like a huge break from the series, but the only reason I'm sticking with it is because of this title, The Last Argument of Kings. I gotta know, what is the last argument of kings? What is it? What is it? And I just know it's gonna be so underwhelming. I already know. It's every single book so far. It's these books always subvert your expectations in the most underwhelming way possible. Like Joe Abercrombie knows what you expect, and he's just like, let me give you the anti-payoff every time, every book, right? And the only satisfaction is like it's kind of visceral because the characters they react the way you do. They're like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" Right? And so you react the same way. So I think that part's cool. That's cool. I'm trying to come across here. Like this might seem very negative. But this is an awesome series. The way like Joe Abercrombie, so talented. I feel like if he wanted to make something epic and inspiring, he easily could. He just didn't want to tell that type of story. He's so talented. The characters, the dialogue, awesome. There's one character I haven't talked about, and it's Baez. He's like this Gandalf archetype, but it's also like super freaking grumpy and so jaded by everything. He's great. So let's just get into a few spoilers here. So at this point, I am bored. I'm so bored. Actually, we don't need to talk about spoilers. Is there really anything? So yeah, that's my thoughts. Like, I feel like I'm not alone in this. I see so much praise for this series on Booktube. So much. And it's not undeserving. Like I said, this is great. I plan to read Joe Abercrombie's at some point. I need like a year break, a year or two. But at some point, I plan on returning to the Age of Madness trilogy because I hear, he's gotten even better. And it's, again, these titles. He has a way of making the perfect titles that just speak to me. Like, for example, one is called The Wisdom of Crowds. I think that's the last book, right? Awesome title. I think there's another one called like The Trouble with Peace. I'm pretty sure. So epic. Let me see what they're all called. So yeah, The Trouble with Peace and The Wisdom of Crowds. Awesome. So cool. So like, but I have to do some digging in because if it's just anticlimactic after anticlimactic it's boring. It's boring. Like maybe it's just a fair warning. Maybe the approach with this is read one of his books a year because it's great. It's like some nice, tough love medicine to swallow at first, but then book after it gets tiring. Like I wish I wish from book to book that Abercrombie would change up the themes a bit more. I think that would make his books a lot more intriguing as a series to read. Because, yeah, it's like, I get it, dude. I get it. But if you're just mostly a character reader, just love the characters, then go for it. This book, this trilogy, some of the best characters across all of fiction, so real. That's the thing, they feel so real. So a little bit of a spoiler. This is one of my favorite scenes. It's from before they are hanged. Such a human moment between Glocta and Colonel West, where they're having a really heart-to-heart conversation. Santa and Glocta's like, dude, like, you know why I hate you, West? It's because I thought we were friends. And after I got captured and came back, you never came to visit me. I expected it from everyone else, but you were the one person I thought would be there for me. You know what Wes said? Man, he said I did visit you. I did. But I was turned away. I was turned away by your mom. At that moment, Glocta, like, it hit him. It hit him. He was like, wow. This whole time I had assumed, like, my mom, she never told me anything. I had assumed, I was too busy feeling sorry for myself. That's what he said. I was too busy feeling sorry for myself to see the truth. I never gave you a chance. And I think that speaks a lot. Like, that's happened so much in life. Misunderstandings that cause grudges, and we create these stories in our head that in truth can be completely false. I think that's beautiful, and at this point they should say to each other, like, what can we do but be better, right? Let's try this again. Let's be friends. And wow, that was such a nice moment. Just anyways, I got nothing more to say. First Law, frustrating but awesome. I have trouble recommending it if you're someone that likes the epic and epic fantasy, in my opinion. Peace.